Okay, let me share with you a mind map. So just a quick check. What do you see on the screen? Just let me know what do you see on the screen. Do you see the word sustain? Word sustain, just type sustain in the chat box if you can see that word sustain in the chat. Okay, right. Thank you very much for acknowledging. And for those who are just now joined, if you want the internationally recognized certification, join my upcoming webinar, okay? I have shared the link in the chat box if you have joined just recently. Okay, now all of you type SSR in the chat box. I want all of you type SSR in the chat box. Great. And kindly take a lot of notes, okay? Kindly take a lot of notes. The first secret to sustenance is what I call a structure. What I call as a structure. I've also written something in Hindi. I just saw Google and wrote. I hope it is right. Anybody who knows Hindi, if it is okay, just type super okay in the chat box. All right. Okay, what is structure? Any organization needs a team leader, team roles and responsibility. The team is very important. If you don't have a structure in the organization, then you will feel frustrated. If people are not skilled, you will feel frustrated. If you don't have enough resources, you will feel frustrated. If the roles and responsibilities are not clear, then it is not going to lead you to the optimum result. How many of you agree with me? Type agree in the chat box. If you super agree with me, type super agree in the chat box. And there are various types of organization. The structure is not as simple as just a team with roles and responsibility. It is also the organizational structure. There is also different types of organizational structure. How many of you agree with me? And this organizational structure, let me also say this. There are different types of organizations. Just by tweaking the organizational structure, you can bring in amazing results. Japanese have a particular type of organization structure. Americans have a particular organization structure. If you see different companies, Apple have a particular organization structure. Google has got a particular organization structure. So the type of organization structure is very, very important. Okay. Second, and depending upon your level of business, the structure what works for a $5 million company does not work for $50 million company. The structure what works for $50 million company does not work for $500 million company. Okay, if you are with me, if you agree with me, give me a 9 or 10 if you super agree with me. Okay, structure is something very, very important. The second is there should be a team leader. Thank you very much for your active participation today. The second thing is there should be a team, there should be roles and responsibility clearly defined. Okay, so this is something that all of us know, but then let me reveal to you the second secret, which is standards. What is a standard? My definition of standard is, I'm saying, communicating the best known way of doing any work. All of you type BKW in the chat box. The best known way. The best known way of doing any work. That is a standard. Now, the standards take the different names in different industries. You can help me in this. Somebody called SOPs, someone calls procedures, someone call, guidelines. Some people might call checklist. Some people might call work instructions, whatever it is. But you have to communicate the best known way of doing work, right? You can type whatever that you follow in your organization. Do you follow procedure? You call it procedures, or do you call it SOPs? You call it as guidelines. You call it as work instructions. You call it as checklist. You call it whatever it is. Procedure as SOPs is a common thing used across industries because the ISO calls for that word called SOPs and procedures. Okay, standard operating procedures. Now, if standards are not there properly, you know what happens? People will say my way or highway. How many of you can relate to what I'm saying? Type ICR, I can relate in the chat box. There might be wonderful team with roles and responsibility, but if you don't communicate the standards effectively, everybody will follow their own standards. There is no rule. So imagine there is no rule of game in soccer. Imagine there is no rule of game in cricket. It will become like a street game. Some people, how many of you played this street game where they say, out, out, this guy says, not out, not out. If you hit that, it becomes, there's no proper rules, right? All of you, please give me a smiley in the chat box if you enjoy this. Okay, so standards have to be communicated. If standards are not set, then the new person who joins in the organization say, hey, in my 20 years of experience, this is how I felt. This is how you felt. My way or highway and all that. If you, okay. How many of you can relate to this? Okay. Now, great. Thank you very much. Now, how do you communicate? Okay. There are different ways in which you can communicate. Okay. The first one is verbal communication. The effectiveness is just, I've just put tentatively some number for you to comprehend, okay? The effectiveness is not very good in verbal communication. For example, you might tell some people, hey, I've told him this, he's not listening to me, right? I've told him this, he's not listening. How many times should I tell you, right? Sometimes you give it in writing. Giving it in writing is much better than verbally telling him, right? Then these days, it is represented visually. Visual can be in the form of process flow diagrams, one of the 7 QC tools, right? You can have a checklist. You can give visually in the form of cross-functional activity mapping. And you can represent in do's and don'ts with pictures. You can put it in sort of photographs and so on and so forth. Okay, so far, if it is interesting, useful, valuable, fantastic, awesome, put it in the chat box. I want you to actually take away a lot from today's session, okay? This is something that I'm sharing 30 years of experience in this very simple framework, okay? All right, thank you very much. So for those who really want to upgrade themselves with internationally recognized certification, please don't miss to join the special upcoming session, okay? All right, so verbal communication, verbal effectiveness. It can be one-to-one, one-to-many, like, town hall meeting. I'm not saying verbal communication is not required. It is necessary, but not sufficient. Similarly, written communication is also necessary, but not sufficient. And visual communication is the best. So verbal communication can be one-to-one, one-to-many. Written communication through WhatsApp, work instructions, checklist, procedures, PMP, whatever it is. And visual communication can be one-point lessons, do's and don'ts, process flow diagrams, visual instructions, diagrams, and all that. Okay. Right. Now, what is the third secret? All of you type in the chat box. What is the third secret? Yes, SR. What is the third secret? First secret is having the proper structure, organization structure, team review, and all that. And yeah, absolutely. The third secret is review mechanisms. Okay, let me. Third thing is review. Okay, let me just collapse this so that. Now this is the most important of the 3, okay? If review is not done, people will go back to what is comfortable and convenient. How many of you agree with me? If review is not done, people will go back to what is comfortable and convenient. Super agree? Okay. Now, let me ask this simple question. Let me ask this. What will you review? Just give me in one word. What will you review? I just want one word. What is that you are going to review? Do you review the process, effectiveness, performance? Only one word. Only one word. I want only one word. Outcome. Fantastic. Result. Result is bang on. All of you type result. Okay. We will review the result. Awesome. Okay. When you go to a fitness center for losing weight, you will review the weight. Okay. Okay. Now, if review is done, okay, if review is not done, let's see the options. Why is the review not done? Okay. Just you give me some of the reasons why is the review not done. In your organization, suppose if they don't do review, please tell me why the review is not done. No proper follow-up, not a priority, is very busy. Okay. Why is review not done? Lack of communication, lack of resources, carelessness, lack of interest, lack of skills. Okay. System not followed, direction not okay, procrastinate. Okay. Thank you very much for sharing. Let me share with you and you can tell me whether you agree with me. All of you know we are all experienced people. Okay. I'm not willing to do the review or I'm not skilled to do the review. Okay. If somebody is not skilled to do the review, how many of you agree with this? He is not willing to do the review or he doesn't know how to do this review. Do you all agree with me on this two things? Let me break this down further. Okay. Okay, let me show you the entire picture. This is going to be interesting. If it is a skill issue, what you will do? Somebody says, I don't know how to do the review. What will you do to him? If he says, I'm not skilled to do the review, what will you do with him? Train him, coach him, simple. Train on the review mechanism. Okay. Hire other personals. Train on the, okay, coach him. Okay. Suppose if he's not willing to do the review, what are the options you have? I'll give you only 1 minute to share. Suppose if he's not willing to do the review, what are the options you have? Replace him, fire him, find who is, counsel him. Okay. Find out why. Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. So if he's not willing to do the review, understand there is no time, too much of review. It is complicated for him to do the review. It is a value issue. If he says there is no time, it is your responsibility to prioritize and communicate on his roles and responsibility. How many of you agree with? If somebody says, I don't have time for the review, you should prioritize his job work and help him communicate to him on the importance of this so that this is an important but not urgent. All right. If he says too much of a review, then you should help him in time management or try to simplify the review. How many of you agree with me on this? If he says review is complicated, you should help understand why he feels complicated, or you should try to simplify the review mechanism. If he says, I don't see a value, that is why I'm not willing. See, I'm not willing because I don't have time is one thing. I'm not willing because there's too much of review. I'm not willing because I'm complicated. But I'm not willing because I don't see the importance of review. I don't see the value in reviewing. For that, you should, as a management, you are responsible to communicate to him why this is important. Okay. So far, if you are with me, just type WU with you in the chat box. And so far, if you're finding it interesting, valuable, useful, put it in the chat box. Now, if review is not done, please understand, if review is not done, human behavior is to go into what is comfortable and convenient. So, if you see here, to simplify, I'm just giving some tips, okay? All of you type ADFM in the chat box. Okay, ADFM in the chat box. Awesome. Okay, let me quickly explain to you. You must have an agenda very, very clear. That is why if you don't have this properly, people are not going to review. Trust me, okay? Duration of the review should be very clear. The frequency should be very clear, whether it is daily, shift-wise, weekly, monthly, all that should be clear. And the mode of review should be clear, whether it is stand-up at the workplace, Gemba means workplace, or is it a conference room, it is an online review, and all that, okay? So if you agree with me, please give me a 9 or 10 if you agree with me, okay? So review must be done with this, okay? The second is some principles to be practiced during the review. And if you don't follow this principle, again, you're going to have a problem in review mechanisms. Whenever you're reviewing, empathize with people. Put yourself in the shoes of others, okay? Before you answer anything. Respect for time. Be on time for the review. Be a good listener. Follow the principles. Do not attack people. Attack the problem. Attack the process. Don't ask who has made this mistake in the review. Instead, ask why the mistake has happened. Play a supporting role, not a reporting role. So if you found this bulb-on moment for you, a new thought process, just type be on in the chat box. Yeah, I like that love emoticons also. All right. So with that, so this is the importance of if review is not done, okay? Assume that the review is done. Okay, assume that the review is done. Let us see the options here. Review is done to check whether the results are not okay or okay, right? Suppose if people are doing review properly and results are okay, then what would you tell them? Review is done, results are okay. What would you do next step? Look for improvement. What else? Implement. No. Already results are okay. Very good. Appreciate, celebrate, and motivate them to adhere to the standards. Okay? This is very important. If the results are not okay, then you should check whether the standards are followed or not, because I told in the second secret, standard is very important. If the standards are followed and the results are not okay, what would you say? Somebody is saying, I followed the standards, but still the results are not okay. What would you do? Investigate. What else? Come on. Review the standards. Okay, ask questions. That's okay. No. They have followed the standards. Yeah, that's right. Either you revise a standard or make a new standard. How many of you agree with me on this? There are only two options you have, right? You do the review. The results are not okay. Now, you check whether the standards are followed or not. If the standards are followed, then you revise the standard. Why should you revise the standard? Because it's not giving you results. Okay. Now, if the standards are not followed, what do you do? Just 1 second. If the standards are not followed, what would you do? You review, you found the results are not okay. Investigate why. Okay, you found they're not followed. Okay, understand why. Find the root cause. Okay. Okay, let me share with you. Now you find whether it is why people are not following the standard, whether it is a skill issue or will issue. Do you agree with me? Again, the same thing. If people are not following the standard, how many of you agree with me? You check whether it is a skill issue or a will issue. Okay. Now the question is, if it is a skill issue, what do you do? If they are not skilled, what do you do? You train it. Simple. Upskill. If it is a will issue, what do you do? Second question. If it is a will issue, what do you do? Motivate them, replace them. See, that is why if you don't know the secret, if you don't know how to do this, that's why you. Okay. If it is a will issue, you should check out whether it is an attitude issue or a value issue. What is attitude issue? Attitude issue is that they have a problem in doing this. Okay. So you need counseling. And value issue is they don't see the importance of doing it. So you have to communicate the value. How many of you agree with me? How many of you found this interesting today? I'll go a little deeper into this. How many of you found this interesting today? How many of you found this useful today? Okay, thank you very much. Any questions you have, I'll answer towards the end. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to revise this in a sort of a flow chart, okay? Now, first, reviewing the results. You are reviewing the results. If the results are satisfactory, then you continue. Okay, you continue this loop. But if review is not satisfactory, you first thing you have to see is whether people are following the standards or not. Okay. If this is clear, type clear in the chat box. Okay. Now, when you are checking the effectiveness of standards, standards must be effective. What standards must be effective means it should give the desired results. That is called effectiveness. All of you, please write in your notebook, standards must be effective. Effective means doing the right things. It should give the desired out. If they are not giving the desired results, then you have only two options, either revise the standard or create new standard. The same thing what I have told you in the mind map, I have put it in the form of a flow chart. Either you should revise the standards or create new standards, and then again check the results. How many of you agree with me now? After seeing, the first thing you should check is whether the standard is effective or not. Okay. After you make the best standards, you go ahead and check with the structure, because I said standards and structures. You go with the structure. If structure, the team must be efficient. Structure means the team. Okay. The team must be efficient. Efficient means doing the things right. What are the things? The process that we have given them, the standards what they have given them. So I want you to remember this today very, very clearly. Standards must be effective. The structure must be efficient. Standards must be effective means it should produce the desired outcome. That process, if you are making a cup of coffee, that standard, that process should produce the result. Structure means efficient. They should follow the standards very well. That is doing the things right according to the standard. Okay. Now, if you find that the standard is also effective, if you found the structure is also efficient, then the question is, why is the result not satisfactory? What I would recommend is, please check the quality of your review, check the quality of data, because it is not possible that if your standard is the best, giving the best outcome, if your people are highly efficient following the standard, it is not possible to get a bad result. How many of you agree with me? It is not possible to get a bad, because either there should be a problem in the standards or there should be a problem with people. So if you still say, I have reviewed, the results are not okay, I found standard also okay, the team is also okay, that means there is something you are not reviewing properly, or some data you are not seeing it properly. How many of you agree? Okay. Now, coming to this, we have said, I'm just putting into the flow chart. If people are not efficient, again, you see whether it's a skill issue or a will issue. And skill issue means the option is to train. There is no other option. I'm just putting in form of options here, okay? If it is will issue, there is a value issue and attitude issue. Now I'll explain a little bit deeply. Value issue means you have to communicate to help them understand the value of it, why it is important. That's very important. That's why the communication is very important. Attitude means the option that I recommend is the 3E framework. What is 3E framework? Please, if you have recruited a person and you tell him that he has an attitude issue, that means you have made a wrong choice. How many of you agree with me? That means you have made a wrong choice. Don't take pride in saying, hey, that guy is fit for nothing. That guy has a big attitude problem. That guy is useless. Don't say all that. I've heard boss themselves after recruiting telling their subordinates. If you can relate with me, just type ICR on the chat box. Now, once a person has come to your team with a lot of validation and a lot of selection mechanisms, please treat him as a family member. You are responsible for him. Okay? And that is why you have to try to find out I always ask this question. If you say our people are, not, I've seen particularly the startup entrepreneurs, they have programmed the people in particular way. And when they scale up and become like 50 crores to 500 crores, 50 million to 500 million, they need a different type of, set of behaviors to really take care of the standards. Okay. And those behaviors are not there. Now they blame people. Okay. You have programmed them. I say your leadership itself should transform into a 500 million company type of mindset rather than a 50 million type of country. Okay. That is why you should find out the 3 E's. The first E I call as you should empathize with the environment they have come from. The environment might be your own company. They have been there for 20 years, your own company. Okay. The second is you should also, they might have come from multinational environment or this environment, that all of us are born in particular environment. Okay. And that environment gives us some experiences, some good experiences, some bad experience. So environment programs your mind, experiences program your mind. Now, the most important thing is what we learn from environment and experience. I repeat, the third E, which is the most important E, that is mostly in your control, because environment, there is a few percentage that you can control. The proportion that you can control is very less. The experiences, what you get from the environment also, chances are that you can control it a bit. though you master the skill of controlling. But education is 80% in your control. What is education? Education is what you have learned from environment and experiences. People who are brought up in the same environment with the same experiences, their thinking might be totally different. Some of them might blame the company. Some of them will take it as an opportunity to improve the company. How many of you really appreciate this? Type APP in the chat box if you really appreciate what I'm saying. And this is called empathizing. And this is called, once you know their environment, experiences, and what they have been programmed as education, as a learning, then you can help them understand and motivate them. This is what is motivation comes here. You can have reward and recognition. You can find out various ways of extrinsic motivation, intrinsic motivation, only when you empathize. And the empathize you can do only with right environment, experiences, and education. All right. All right. So if you found today's session interesting, valuable, fantastic, awesome, whatever that you felt, put it in the chat box.